Hi, welcome to the bathtub, where when you hear this sound effect,
Oh,
We're so happy that it's your birthday. We hope you have an awesome day.
that's right.
and you see this rinky-dink candle, and I light this rinky-dink candle. Hold on a second. You know, it's another hard-hitting bathtub birthday edition. It's a happy birthday edition to Doris Piserchia. And I'll tell you the story behind that in a minute. But I also want to make it clear this is the first of our gluten-free. This is our gluten-free edition of the bathtub. First one ever, because I've been diagnosed with some sort of weird disease where I have to not eat any glutens. And there's no glutens in this. There's no glutens in the candle. There's no glutens in me. And I'm going to blow this out for Doris Piserchia. And I'll explain a little bit more in a minute. Lucky, come in here. Come on. You can come up for just a second. Lucky's coming in for there's a Puppy Noir episode we're going to tape in a few minutes, but she got here a little early. So here's the story. Doris Piserchia was an SF writer, mainly science fiction, though I think she did a couple zombie novels under a pseudonym. And this is a random Doris Piserchia novel, Doom Time. Many of her books were published in the old Daw yellow jackets, these kind of beautiful old yellow jacket editions. This is the Pfluger. We talked about the Pfluger about a year ago. Oh, no, that's the Spinner. I get them all confused. The Pfluger's another one. Anyway, she wrote a lot of these. She wrote one of the ace doubles called Mr. Justice, and I'm going to tell a little more about that. But first, I want to explain how this is really... It's a gluten-free birthday edition without a birthday and without any gluten. So we don't have an actual birthday and we don't have a gluten. When I did a piece about Doris Piserchia, I don't know her personally, about a year ago, we talked about the Pfluger. I know it's in here. It is. These have some cool covers. So this is a hilarious book. I still have all my notes from my terrible talk. The Pfluger, which is about this gigantic monster that just tears this planet apart. It's just this big mindless monster. It kills everything it comes into contact with, and it's hilarious. When I did that piece about a year ago, I heard from a very nice guy named Rob Piserchia, who turned out to be Doris's grandson. And Rob and I were in a little correspondence on Facebook here and there, and not much more than that. And then I said I was planning to do another brief talk about Piserchia, and he said, well, she just celebrated her birthday. She just turned 92. And I was like, she just turned. I don't remember when he said this, but for some reason I had it in my mind she just had her birthday, and she actually had her birthday back in October. We either do things half-assed at the bathtub or we don't do them at all. That's our motto here. We do it half-assed or not at all. So I'm giving this happy birthday candle and gluten-free cake to Doris about 10 months after her 92nd birthday and about 2 months before her 93rd birthday. So Doris has been around for a while. She's done pretty well, as far as I can tell. And she hasn't published any books in a long time, but it's a good time to remember some of the fun books she has written. Okay, so this was her first novel. I have not read this, Mr. Justice. I know Doris Piserchia's work from when I was about a teenager. I read a couple of stories of hers. I read, I believe, Star Rider when it came out. And then I didn't really follow a lot of her books, but she was always on my radar as kind of this really interesting, odd science fiction writer. This is one of the books she published. It's called I, Zombie. It's under the name Kurt Selby. I've never read these. She wrote 2 zombie-ish novels for Daw. And Star Rider was kind of it did very well in the science fiction community. I think it was nominated for some awards and probably didn't win them because it was probably too good. And it was a really strange, interesting book, which I would like to read again. Then she published a lot. She kind of came and went from the publishing scene. I guess she was you can look her up on Wikipedia, and I think she has her own little website where there's a little bit about her life. And she had a lot of stuff to deal with in her life with her husband and with her own career, and she was in the military, and she had kids and grandkids. And at one point, she just had to stop writing, I guess. This is what I've just gotten from online resources because of family commitments. And I think the last book she published was this. I'm not sure. I think the last book she published was The Deadly Sky, and that would have been published in 1983 by Daw Books. In the past couple of days, I'm going to have we always have a glass of milk during the birthday edition, so we don't have any. I'm going to have that with my gluten-free gluten-free cupcake in a minute. The Deadly Sky. So, recently I was looking for something to take in the bathtub, and I hadn't read Piserchia's books in a while. So I pulled this into the bathtub and had a really good time with it. I would say it's not the one I would recommend to read first. It's her last book. The first half of the book, she has these cool dog books. Just look cool. The old mass market paperbacks they don't do this anymore. They just don't. It's a really cool cover. I don't know that picture. I don't think that a picture occurs anywhere in the book. I don't remember anyone playing cards. I don't remember any scene like that. But I may have missed it when I was sudsing or something. Anyway, it's a fun book. The first 50 pages of a Piserchia novel is always the most fascinating because she sets up an entire world, an entire sets of conflict, an interstellar, mess. And this one is some far future planet where they're being invaded. There's someone's broken open some time space vortex or whatever, and they're inserting some sort of weapon into this planet, and all the people on this planet are finding ways of disarming this weapon that's in another dimension. Anyway, the first 50 pages or so sets up this whole alien culture really well, really quickly, really smart, and I'd say I enjoyed most of the book. I kind of lost a little interest as I went along. If I was trying to compare Piserchia to other writers, she was often, we talked about the New Wave a few weeks ago, she was often equated with the New World's New Wave movement of the 60s and 70s. And certainly many of those writers and critics at that time would have probably enjoyed her work. But she reminds me a lot of old-fashioned science fiction. She reminds me a lot of A.E. Van Vogt, one of our favorite Looney writers. She's a much better writer than Van Vogt, but her imagination is just as wild. So a bit of A.E. Van Vogt with a much more beautiful prose style. She writes really, really smart, intelligent sentences and paragraphs. And then she reminds me a lot of Jack Vance for the kind of far futurish atmosphere and so forth. And then a lot of it reminds me of Brian Aldiss. We're going to talk about Brian Aldiss someday because he's going to be in the All Bathtub Hall of Fame. I just reread this because after I finished The Deadly Sky, I liked it, but it didn't remind me how much I loved Piserchia's work. So I read Earth in Twilight. It looks terrible, but it's a great book. It's kind of a cool cover. That's one of the many giant weird creatures in this book. Earth in Twilight reminds me a lot of Jack Vance. Far future, end of the planet, end of history sort of thing, where the whole planet is changed into something amazingly weird. And it reminds me of Hot House by Brian Aldiss. Are you getting a little bored, Lucky? Hot House by Brian Aldiss. If you haven't read that, it's about this kind of, it's basically a heat death of the planet like we're going through now, only it creates this huge greenhouse, basically. All the plants take over the world, and the human beings have become kind of parasites in the plant communities. This has a lot of that in it. It's set in some far, far future, timeless place when all human beings have left the Earth. Lucky, I'm going to put you down now. Okay, you can come. You have to be back for the next episode. And they've all left the planet because everything's fallen apart, and there's possibilities of a nuclear war that's mutated everything, but you don't really know. And what they've done on this planet is they've built these towers, these huge towers all over the planet. So at one point, Piserchia describes it looks like a beach ball that's having acupuncture. It's just this big round thing with big platforms sticking all out of it, so that the spaceships can come in and pick people up and take off. Well, this takes place like thousands of years after all the human beings have left, and all these strange creatures have taken over. What Piserchia does from the first page of this book is she goes into the point of view, like she does in the Pfluger, of these weird creatures. So you don't really know what you look like. A lot of the times in this book, you don't know what you look like. The first alien is the first character is some sort of guardian that was built millions of years ago, and it's still wandering around the Earth. It's supposed to be protecting something, but it forgot what it's supposed to be doing. And somehow, some sort of genetic material got into its brain through a needle, and he actually absorbed some sort of human personality. And it's just a fraction of a human personality. Piserchia can just create these believable alien, strange characters really quickly. Very quickly within the first 3 chapters, I think she introduces 5, 6, 7 different really strange characters, including an Earthman who's coming back to Earth. They're thinking about destroying the planet so that they can recolonize it or something. And in the course of this adventure. Another one of the creatures that is created, Piserchia describes a germ that becomes conscious. It takes over a body, and it becomes conscious, and it becomes a super intelligent germ, and it starts to go out through the earth, and all it wants to do is destroy things. Its only interest, it's like a Donald Trump virus. It just wants to destroy things and just make itself feel powerful. It's a brilliant character and fascinating. This is 150 pages. You read it, it's like, it's just like a brilliant passage by 1 minute after another. Really well written, really original. You haven't ever read anything like it. And what's clear, she wrote these fairly quickly, but with a great deal of intelligence. A great deal of intelligence and imagination. And in some ways, I think her books don't always succeed at the end. I'll be honest, I got a little confused near the end of the book because she has all these great alien characters, and her human characters are pretty good too. But at the same time, they're nowhere near as interesting as the weird alien characters. And the main central characters of this kind of just disappeared. I frankly don't know what happened to them. I think I either missed something, or I was looking for the soap or something. I missed something, and they kind of disappeared. And then there was a bunch of these monsters fighting. But I don't want to make it sound like a trivial book, because these are really, really smart, intelligent novels. Great fun if you haven't read them. If you like Jack Vance, if you like Brian Aldiss, then you're probably going to like Piserchia. If you like A.E. Van Vogt and you'd like better prose style and a smarter narrative intelligence, then you might want to try Doris Piserchia. Happy birthday. She's 92/93 years young, and we'll all give a big shout. Happy birthday to her. Tell her, write a new book. That's Dodo. She's saying, write a new book. We're waiting for it. And have a great birthday whenever it comes, and whenever you had it last. We hope you have a great birthday.